Welcome, friends. Welcome. This is James Corbett of The Corbett Report at CorbettReport.com. I'm coming to you here in January of 2021 with the great pleasure of introducing and welcoming you to a brand new podcast series from The Corbett Report, SolutionsWatch, which, exactly as you would expect from a title like that, is a series that hopes to introduce and critically analyze the various proposed solutions to the problems that we are facing. Now, if you would like the context for this series and how and why it is coming about right now, I would humbly suggest that you check out New World Next Year 2021, a video that I released towards the end of last year with my co-host James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com, in which I introduced the concept of the People's Reset for 2021, and also a video that I released just yesterday, if you are watching this live here in January of 2021, on Stop Watching Propaganda, the final edition of my, until now, regular Propaganda Watch podcast series, where I examined week in and week out propaganda and how it was functioning on the public consciousness to shape people's opinions, behaviors, and actions. But as I pointed out in that final episode of the Propaganda Watch series, if all we ever do is analyze the propagandists, we run the risk of getting stuck in the rut of constantly merely analyzing propaganda and analyzing what is being fed to us, rather than making an active effort to change and shape the world that we are living in. And so I think it is important to keep our focus on the solutions aspect of the problems that we are facing. If we are not keeping at the forefront of our consciousness what it is we are working toward, we will never have any success in simply fighting against what is being done to us, as if we are passive objects rather than active subjects who are helping to shape history. That is the ethos that I am taking into this series, and that I want to extend out, hopefully not just in 2021, but here afterwards. And so I would also, of course, if you are brand new to the Corbett Report, I would very much exhort you to check over the archives, the now voluminous 14-year archives of audio, video, and textual material at CorbettReport.com, all 100% completely freely available for download. And I suggest you check that out if you are new to all of this and just getting up to speed on the problems that we face. Of course, I have been talking about those problems in their various aspects and forms for those 14 years, and along the way, highlighting many of the solutions that I hope to explore in greater depth in this series. So quite specifically, I hope that this series will be a platform for highlighting the work of activists, stress the word activist, who are seeking to provide solutions to the problems we're facing, to examine new ideas for solving problems, to study the movements, technologies, and proposals that purport to solve these problems and to see if they are fit to that task, and also, importantly, to revisit old ideas to see how they are functioning or not functioning, and whether they can be retooled to work better. So that is the very broad outline of what I hope this series will be achieving, and I will leave it to the actual series itself to speak for specifically what kinds of solutions I have in mind and what sorts of things I would like to be working on. And I do that advisedly and with conscious forethought, because I want this series to evolve organically. I don't want to predetermine it too strictly, because I want it to be responsive to the situation that we find ourselves in, which I think we can all agree is changing exceptionally rapidly and at an accelerating pace, and likely only to accelerate further from here. So a solution that is good for today may not be fit for purpose next week or even tomorrow. So I think it is important for this series to be agile in that sense. Also, I suppose I should have a big caveat at the beginning of this series that of course, as has been observed, a great mind can entertain ideas without necessarily advocating for them. So just because some idea is proposed or at any rate examined here on the Solutions Watch series, that does not by any means indicate that it is coming with an Corbett-approved imprimatur. Nothing of the sort. No, in fact, not only do I not guarantee that any of these solutions will be effective for every person in every situation at all times, but I guarantee that no solution will ever be effective for every person in every situation at all times. So I suppose caveat emptor applies. You have to use your own critical faculties to determine whether or not the various proposals that we're going to examine here are going to be applicable for you or practical for you. So, having said that, I want to stress that by necessity, all solutions are partial in extent, limited in scope, and imperfect by nature. It is important that we get that out of the way right up front. Partial in extent, because of course there is no silver bullet, this is the one solution we need that will solve all our problems. I think anyone who has progressed beyond childhood would understand that to be a truth about the very many different problems we're facing and the very many different situations that we individually find ourselves in. There is not going to be the silver bullet solution that will solve all of those problems magically. Every solution will be limited in scope, which is something of an extension of that first point. Again, there is no one-size-fits-all solution that will apply for everyone in all situations. And every solution will be imperfect by nature because no human system is completely incorruptible. Any system, no matter how ingeniously devised, can and will, over time, become corrupted, either by people of ill intent who have been sent in to purposefully disrupt and derail solutions and movements and things that are working toward an end goal of peace and prosperity, generally speaking, but also even from those of good intent who, being corrupt humans, will ultimately introduce corruptions into those systems over time. So nothing is ever going to be the perfect system that will never need tinkering or retooling or revisiting or some sort of overturning at some point. And thus, I think it is important for us to keep in mind when we are addressing these solutions in SolutionsWatch that we are not measuring the success of any given solution by the perfect. How much is this in relation to 100% perfect? No, we are measuring this relative to the possible. So, is it possible for us to do this? If so, does that give us a relatively better experience in this way or in that way? Does it lead us closer towards the various goals that we set for ourselves? And I am not here to set goals for anyone in the audience, obviously, so I think everyone has to, again, come to their own determination about what their goals are and whether or not these solutions work towards them or against them. And in that respect, I would like to inoculate the audience, to use that phrase, against the inevitable feedback that you will see, I'm sure, probably for every single edition of this podcast, some variation of the nattering nabobs of negativity coming in to decry that this solution isn't a one-size-fits-all, this solution isn't a silver bullet, this solution could be corrupted over time. Yes, absolutely. It is not one-size-fits-all. It is not a silver bullet. It will be corrupted over time. So do not give in to those nattering nabobs of negativity, whether those of ill intent, who are paid disruptors, who are sent in to disrupt people who are working towards solutions, or people who are genuine but simply cynical by nature. Do not give in to that. Again, I have faith that when I do my level best to present these ideas to the audience, that you will be able to take them on board, entertain those ideas, and determine for yourself whether or not they are applicable in your life. So, this is a very definite, marked, different approach. Rather than simply concentrating on looking at propaganda or looking at things that are being done to us, I want to consciously shift towards highlighting and thinking about what we can do to affect change in the world, because we are not objects to be acted upon. We are subjects who can act ourselves, and I'm going to highlight and applaud the work of those who are working towards getting us where we want to go. On that note, I am very much looking forward to joining you next week with the first installment of this new series. and let's all work together to make this world a better place. James Corbett, CorbettReport.com.